I would like to take you on a journey. In the region of Galicia, in northwestern Spain, sits the city of Santiago de Compostela. And in the center of the city stands a magnificent cathedral. Not only is the architecture of the cathedral stunning, it is also renowned for another reason. It is believed that the remains of St. James the Apostle are buried on its altar. And since the 9th century, millions of people have traveled a network of trails across Europe on a pilgrimage to the cathedral. And that pilgrimage is known as Camino de Santiago. Last year, my brother and I were among 1.5 million people who walked the Camino. We traveled 400 kilometers from southern France to the historic city. Now, when my brother first broached the idea of walking the Camino, I had never even heard about it. In fact, my first reaction was something like this. Okay, good for you. Have fun, take lots of pictures. But the more and more I thought about this journey he was inviting me to go on, this long and arduous physical journey, the more I saw a connection with a larger personal journey of the heart that I was already on. And that is the journey to courage. It started in 2018, when I was, at the time, a senior vice president of a global sportswear company. Life was good. And one day, though, I woke up and I realized that I was professionally successful, but personally unfulfilled. This in spite of the titles, the accolades, the travel, and all the things that we associate with the good corporate life. I knew that something needed to change in my life. But what? So I took a step back and asked myself, in my previous decades of life, when had I been at my best? And when had I been at my worst? And in both cases, what had been the drivers? The answer to both questions was the same: courage. Either the presence of it or the absence of it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like I'd never been courageous in my entire life. When I was 19, I took a leap of faith to leave my native Sierra Leone and travel to the United States in pursuit of a 4-year college degree, knowing full well that my parents could barely afford even 1 year of my education there. As a business professional, I have made the decision to live in 14 cities on 4 continents, traveling with my wife and 2 young children much of the time. That took courage, mine and theirs. But in 2018, I felt like my life was on autopilot, humming along fine, but, fraught with trade-offs and compromises that were taking me further and further away from a sense of fulfillment. My journey took me down many paths, and one of them was to a book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Bronnie Ware, an end-of-life caregiver, had spent years interviewing her patients, asking them what they were most regretful of. The number one answer: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life that was true to myself and not what others expected of me. That resonated with me. And maybe it resonates with you as well. I knew then that I did not want to live like one of Bronnie Ware's patients. Today, we live in times of uncertainty and anxiety. Many of us are frustrated with decisions that are being taken around us that impact us. Many of us have a sense of hopelessness, maybe with decisions that we are making in our own lives. Many of us could be defaulting to autopilot, afraid to rock the boat, maybe waiting for a savior, and doing only what is expected of us. Various sources say that we adults make between 34 and 35,000 decisions a day. That's about 900 million decisions in a lifetime. Obviously, the majority of them are subconscious, but some of them are quite conscious. Cornell University says that 226.7 of these decisions are about food alone. Food alone, every single day. I identify with that as well. Last night, I had a decision to make, late night snack. I went with both. But on a serious note, let's imagine that you're at work and you see something that you know is not right. What do you do? Do you speak up or do you look away and stay silent? Especially if there's a risk that you could be ostracized. Research from the University of Exeter says that we humans have an innate desire to be part of an in crowd. And sometimes this desire gets in the way of us making the right decisions. And I'm not talking about peer pressure alone from the outside. I'm talking about intentional decisions that we make to suspend our own values and judgments just so that we can belong to a group. Now, this is important to understand. As I said earlier, courage is the missing link to a life without regret. But courage is also not possible without a deep sense of purpose. On the Camino, we got to meet lots of different people from all the continents, different countries, walks of life, and even different faiths. And we got used to asking and answering the same question. Why? Why are you walking the Camino? According to McKinsey, the consulting firm, 60% of adults either lack a sense of purpose or the ability to articulate one. Well, why is this connected to this conversation about courage? That's because courage needs something meaningful and powerful to work for. Courage needs to know what it is fighting for. Courage needs to know what we truly believe and stand for. It is hard to be courageous about something if you don't care much about anything. Don't take my word for it. Think about some of the courageous people in your life. Think about some of the most courageous people we all know in history. Martin Luther King Jr. was the son of a preacher who courageously decided to champion civil rights in the United States right until his murder. Nelson Mandela emerged from 27 years in prison to forge a vision of peace for South Africa, courageously choosing service over revenge, over retaliation, and over retribution. Malala Yousafzai was a 15-year-old Pakistani schoolgirl who stared down the barrel of a Taliban gun and in the process galvanized a global movement for girls' education. None of these people was coming from a place of immense political power or wealth or military might, but they were each making the decision to be courageous. Ordinary people, one superpower. And the same can be true for all of us. And this applies not just to individuals, but also to organizations and companies, and even to countries. Walking 400 kilometers over 21 days is not an impossible task, but neither is it an easy one. You know, what makes a difference is meticulous planning. For me, it was trying to decide what to carry in my backpack. This is where fear sets in. What if? What if? What if we encountered a bear? Bear. Well, for the record, there are no dangerous animals on the Camino. But what if? What if I got bored? I need to take my books. I need to read. Well, again, there's plenty of other things to do. But you also know books are heavy. What if I'm homesick and I need my favorite pillow? Well, you guys get the point. Fear saps strength. Fear erodes courage. As my brother said, you carry your fears on your back. So it was on the Camino, and so it is in the journey to courage in life. The more I researched and read about courage, the more I realized that courage is not an abstract concept, nor is it a birthright that only a chosen few have access to. Courage is a choice. Courage is choosing purpose over fear and acting despite the risks we face. Courage is not making 35,000 perfect decisions. Courage is making 7 essential choices with consistency. And I want to share them with you. I've arranged them in an acronym so I can remember them as well. C, commit. Commit to a purpose. Find out which aspirations and motivations most deeply move you. And when you discover it, don't forsake your calling. O, own. Own your potential. Feel entitled. Feel entitled to the most authentic version of yourself and live it with confidence. Don't give in to self-doubt and self-minimization. You unmask. Unmask fear. Fear is not a stop sign. Neither is it a U-turn signal. Fear is only an indication that we are exploring and growing. So let's do more of what scares us, not less. R, reject. Reject distracting voices. This is a big one. Don't feel compelled to react to the chatter of social media or the naysayers in your life. Ignore the mob. Cowards like company. And courage and conformity are not friends. A, act. Act decisively. Be biased to making decisions, and when you do, follow through. Courage is not a spectator sport. G, grow. Grow from failure. Mistakes will happen. Yes, they will. But mistakes are not permanent. Seek learning and progression, not perfection. And finally, E, endure. Endure with resilience. Courage invites backlash. So expect that. And don't give in or give out too easily. In fact, when you hang in there and we are courageous, we inspire others to find their own courageous selves. Courage is contagious. I would like to return to the start of the Camino and I invite you to experience it with me. We started our journey in the small medieval town of Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. Saint-Jean is located in southern France, nestled in the foothills of the Pyrenees mountain range. It is one of the more popular starting points of the Camino. Anyone starting the Camino is very apprehensive about the entire journey. But when you start in Saint-Jean, you have a much more immediate challenge: the mountain. That first day was my hardest day. And it was also my best day. It took 7 hours of climbing, 7 hours of hard climbing, 7 hours in which I was consciously placing each footstep in each of the essential choices that lead to courage. And after an entire day, late in the evening, when we arrived at the top of the mountain, we were greeted with an unbelievable view. Rolling hills and valleys for as far as the eye could see. Beautiful country, beautiful landscape. France on one side and Spain on the other. And as I looked down at it, I was filled with an indescribable sense of excitement and joy and confidence. Confidence that there was nothing else on the journey ahead of us that I would not be able to overcome. On that first day of the Camino, I learned a lasting and enduring lesson about courage. Take the first step. Take the first step. So, tomorrow, when you wake up and start working on your 35,000 different decisions, I'd like you to remember the acronym COURAGE and make at least one of those choices that truly matters. Make at least one of those choices with intention. Make at least one of those choices prioritizing purpose over fear and action over inaction. And then take the first step. Thank you.